Hey, I guess you want to follow along on one of my workouts. I would love that. But I think there are some basic rules we need to establish and things we should go over first. So let's do that. Your safety is my #1 priority when making these workouts. So please, go see your physician if you have any underlying heart conditions before performing one of these workouts. To monitor your heart rate throughout the workout, if you have an Apple Watch or a wearable, that's preferable.
While we're on the note of safety, remember, I can't physically fix your form if I'm not with you in person. So I need you to replicate these movement patterns to the best of your ability with perfect form. You're going to also hear audible cues. So if you have headphones in loud environments, it's going to help you understand what you should and shouldn't be doing.
To get the most out of these workouts, simply set your phone or tablet up, follow along with the instructions and try to keep pace, and just work hard. Some workouts might use equipment where it's unsafe to watch the video while trying to perform the exercise at the same time. So for these, I advise watch the video, then rewind, set your phone up off to the side, and then perform the exercise while only listening to the audible cues. Use your own best judgment for this. Oof, that made things awkward.
And that's essentially it. Follow these workouts, work as hard as you possibly can, and on a week-to-week basis, make sure you're thinking of increasing one variable like weight or reps or tempo or something. The last thing I want to say is just a thank you. The fact that you're here with me today tells me that you're willing to dedicate energy and time to try to better yourself, and the fact that you're using me as a resource to do so really does mean a lot. So thank you with all my heart, and enjoy your workout. In today's workout, we're going to focus primarily on the anterior side of our body, meaning the tissue in the front side of us. For today's workout, we're going to need a few pieces of equipment, like a lacrosse ball, a foam roller, mini bands, a kettlebell or a dumbbell, as well as a resistance band. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, before we get started today, we're going to do a little bit of myofascial release or soft tissue work to make sure that the tissue is going to activate properly when we do these workouts, as well as loosen it up a bit so we can get into these positions a little bit safer and a little bit more efficiently. The only things we're going to need for this part of the workout are going to be a lacrosse ball as well as a foam roller. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use this lacrosse ball and we're going to try to loosen up some of the tissue of our glute. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit on our butt. I'm going to start a timer. We're going to do 40 seconds, about 40 seconds per side, with this lacrosse ball right under our glute. I'm going to take my hands and put my hands behind my back. I have almost all of my weight right now on this lacrosse ball on my glute. Opposite leg can be straight or bent at 90. But the main concept is I want to take a deep breath in, bring my leg up to my side, and then bring my leg down to the ground, abducting it, taking a deep breath out. Now, if you find a spot that's extremely painful, or maybe this right now is really painful, just take deep breaths. You don't need to do any movement. You can make small circles. You can put your hands on yoga blocks to help lift yourself up to make this a little bit easier. But again, the goal is to have this ball kind of dig into some tissue that's a little deeper and try to provide blood flow and help increase fluid dynamics so that this tissue can activate better. And you can kind of wake it up and remind it that it's got a job to do in a few minutes. We sit on our butts all day and that tissue gets matted down. 45 seconds is up. We're going to switch sides. That tissue gets matted down. So we need to do some things to make sure that we remember how to activate it when we're doing some of these workouts. Move to the next side. Now, I'm a little sweaty right now because I actually just finished this workout and I'm finishing with the myofascial release for a recording because I want to talk a little bit about how I felt during the workout and kind of why I created it. So today we're going to be doing an isometric day. We're going to be doing a lot of positional holds, whether that's at the end range of motion or something that you usually perform, or maybe at the beginning range of motion. And we're going to try to build some strength in that position and muscular endurance. And we're going to also work on strengthening tissue around our joints because we got to hold these positions. So a lot of the stabilizing muscles have to be activated and work. And it's also a little easier on us in the sense of it's not as much wear and tear on our joints because we're holding these positions and we're not going through ranges of motion over and over. So if you're someone that kind of has creaky knees or you get aches and pains in some of your joints, I think this is a perfect workout for you to start with. Regain some confidence, learn how to do these positions better, learn what tissue should activate and how you should feel in these positions. Next, we're going to lay face down. We're going to take this lacrosse ball and we're going to put it right on the front of our shoulder. I'm going to start a new timer. The goal now is to try to loosen up the tissue of our shoulder and pec. So right where my shoulder meets my pec, I put the lacrosse ball and now I kind of leverage some weight on my side down on this ball. I put my hand on my head or my head on my hand. I won't because I don't want to muffle the mic. And then I just think of elbow up and down, chicken winging this arm. Again, if I find a spot that's real painful, maybe I make small circles. Again, taking deep breaths. A lot of us sit most of the day for work. We get really kyphotic, rounded forward posture. We're on our phones all day looking down. And the tissue of our pec and shoulder get real tight. And because of that, the tissue of our upper back gets weak and lengthened, and we get pulled into these bad postures. And then that tissue that's working here, that's pulling us into this bad posture, is constantly working all day. It's overactive, and we're just wasting energy. So we need to do some things to try to loosen this tissue up and then stretch it so that we fix our posture, and then we're not increasing our risk of injuries because tissue is overworking, and maybe we have a hard time doing some exercises correctly because of it. Okay? Switch sides. Face down over here. All right. Hand behind my back. All right. Getting deep breaths. Elbow up and down. Small circles, whatever it takes. And maybe even getting in this position with your arm behind your back is tough for you, which we're going to slowly work on. And I'm thankful, because if you can't get into that position, guess what? That's opportunity that we get to work on now. So we got to look at it as a positive. Again, I appreciate you guys for being here. We're going to work hard today. I'm excited for you to perform this workout. Deep breaths, almost finished up here. I think we're going to learn a lot about our body in the process of doing this workout. Okay, next, we're going to now use that foam roller, and we're going to work on some spine health. So because of the sitting we do most of the day, we get rounded and kyphotic forward, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to do some thoracic extension, and we're going to try to open up some of the tissue of our upper back and put our spine in a position that's a little bit more to the natural curvature of our spine. So hands are going to go on our head. The first step here is with the foam roller on my upper back, I go into a posterior pelvic tilt. I think of pushing my lower back down to the ground. I feel my core activate. From here, I take deep breaths out. And I'm just thinking of conforming my upper back over this foam roller. Again. If you arch your back, I could touch my head to the ground, but that's not the point. I want to, again, tuck my pelvis and make sure that only my thoracic spine is trying to go into extension. Now, if you're someone who's extremely tight, sit a lot, this is really uncomfortable, spend more time here. Be slow. Use yoga blocks. Put the yoga blocks behind your head and rest your head up higher. We'll do one more rep. I'm going to move the foam roller up a bit. And again, you can pause the video and spend more time here if you feel like this is really beneficial. But I want to get you guys moving into the workout as well. Okay, next, let's do some thoracic rotation. So let's lay on our side. I'm going to take one leg and put it on top of the foam roller, opposite arm locked out. From here, my top hand is on my other hand. I take a deep breath out, and I try to rotate my shoulder down to the ground without my leg coming up off this foam roller. Deep breath. Return back. If you're someone that plays a rotational sport, this is a wonderful exercise to help you gain more thoracic rotation. It's going to help you produce more power in your sport because now you can access that range of motion. It's also going to reduce your risk of injury to your lower back because now you're not rotating from the wrong portion of your spine, as well as your shoulder. If you lack thoracic rotation, you might try to access extra ranges of motion in your shoulder joint, which might put you at risk of injury. Return all the way back, deep breath out. Keep that knee down. Last one. And again, if you want to spend more time here and you can only access this part of the range of motion, please spend more time working on this and you can catch up with me in a few minutes. All right, guys. So that finishes up the myofascial release, soft tissue portion. Next, we're going to move on to some movement prep to access some ranges of motion we're going to get in the workout, as well as warming up that tissue. I'll see you in a second. Next, we're going to work on some movement prep really quickly. The only things we're going to need for this are 2 different mini bands, a heavy and a light, as well as a kettlebell. The first thing we're going to start with is we're going to do a lateral band walk. So we're going to step inside of the mini band that's a heavy. We're going to have this around our ankles. Watch out for leg hair. It'll take some off. And the other thing we're going to do is have our hands in a mini band that's light, and we're going to pull that apart in external rotation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute, and we're going to do a lateral band walk, walking left to right with our hands also in the mini band, okay? So let's get that started. So I got both hands in the mini band. I'm in a semi-squat position, hinge my hips back. I'm gonna walk laterally while I hold this top band pulled apart. So I get to warm the tissue of our shoulders up, while at the same time, I get to warm the tissue of my hips up. Now, if you don't have two different mini bands like this, we can do the lower body mini band. To me, that's the most important part of this. You have something to warm up your shoulders next anyway. But you can work on arms overhead. There's a lot of things that you can do to try to warm up some of the tissue of your shoulders without having this mini band. And again, external rotation. When I do this mini band lateral walk, when I step, big step, don't turn your foot out. Make sure your knee is not collapsing in. Okay? My knee is tracking over my toes. Almost done. Great way to warm up the part of your glute in charge of abduction. And done. Woo! Okay, tough stuff. Also, be careful stepping out of these bands, please. Okay, next, we're gonna grab our light kettlebell that I mentioned before. And we're gonna do kettlebell squats and halos. So, I do one squat, push my hips open, I stand, kettlebell goes around my head each direction. We're gonna do 8 of these. When I do the halo, big circle around my head and I keep it nice and low. Do some from the side here. Squat, try to keep a somewhat upright torso angle. If your squat doesn't look like that, and your squat looks more like this, because you don't have the proper ankle mobility to get your knees to track forward more over your toes, that's okay, but that does go to show that's something that we can work on in the future. Big circle, last ones. And if you don't have a kettlebell, you can do this with a dumbbell, a weight plate, a band. Whew. And there you go. Quick active warm-up. Now we're getting ready to start with the workout. All right, let's get the workout started. The only piece of equipment we're going to need for this circuit is going to be a light mini band. The exercises we're going to perform are just going to be in one small area, so we don't need much space here. And the 3 movement patterns we're going to perform in a row are going to be an isometric squat hold with our hands in a mini band to work on external rotation of our shoulders. We're going to hold that for 45 seconds. We're going to do a tabletop positional hold with a mini band around our legs to work our glutes. And then we're going to finish with a 30-second isometric hold on each side of a dead bug. Okay? So let's get started. First thing we're going to start with is going to be that isometric squat hold like I mentioned. So I'm going to set a timer for 45 seconds. We're going to get our hands inside of a mini band. Once we have our hands inside of that light mini band, we're going to descend down until we get to 90 degrees at the bottom of our squat hold, and we're just going to hold this position. The beauty of this is we get to isometrically work our legs, right? And again, work on strengthening the tissue around our knee, working on stability of our ankle, working on good squat mechanics. But at the same time, I'm getting to work on strengthening the external rotators of my shoulder. By that, I mean our hands are going to want to collapse in an internal rotation, but we got to fight against that to activate our shoulders and hold this position. Deep breaths, trying to keep an upright spine. I'll show you from the side. Again, I'm making sure I open up my hips. My knees are tracking over my toes and they're not collapsing in. I'm also not sitting so low that this isn't actually a workout and I'm just stretching the tissue. I want to make sure I'm active and I'm trying to stay at 90 degrees. And before you know it, we're done already. Okay, next, we're going to put our feet inside of the mini band now, okay? The mini band is going to go right below our knees. I'm then going to start a new timer for 45 seconds, and we're going to get into a tabletop positional hold, okay? So our hands are stacked directly under our shoulders. I dig my toes into the ground. I push myself up off the floor, and I think of opening my hips up as much as I possibly can. As we're holding this position, we want to think of protracting our shoulder blades, pushing ourselves away from the floor as much as we can. And then again, we're just taking deep breaths, maintaining a neutral spine. I'm not arching my back in extension. I'm not rounding into flexion. I'm not letting my hips rise up to make this easier. I try to hover my knees as close to the floor as I can, which is going to be burning up those quads because of that squat hold we just performed. Deep breaths. We got 10 more seconds left. We're almost there. Stay really active through the hands. Man, those quads are burning. I feel my hips from pushing that band out laterally. 3, 2, okay. Last exercise. We're going to take this band off. Now we're gonna lay face up. We're gonna be doing a 30-second dead bug on each side. So again, let me start my timer. The dead bug is gonna look like this. I'm gonna extend one leg out over my body and my opposite arm over my head, keeping posterior tilt. We're gonna push our lower backs against the ground, okay? 3, 2, like I mentioned, posterior tilt, that's the most important part. My lower back is pressed against the ground as hard as I can. If I start to arch and I feel like there's a gap there, I'm not working my core and I'm letting my erectors of my lower back take over. Deep breaths. If you need to make this easier, you can lift your leg higher up in the air, especially if you have tight hamstrings. Being in this position is going to be challenging for you. And then again, we're just staying calm. And switch. Reset. Other side. As you can see, I'm doing opposites, arm and leg extended. You can do the same side if you want. This is typical, I would say, for a dead bug. Again, lower back pressed down to the ground as hard as you can. Deep breaths. It's one of my favorite core exercises because it gives you feedback if you're doing it wrong. Like I mentioned before about lower back against the ground. And look what time it is. Oh wait, that's a call from a friend. Oh, 30 seconds, so there you are. So again, that was our first circuit, 3 awesome exercises to get us started. We're gonna take a short rest and then we're gonna repeat these exercises again. You will not have me doing the voiceover, you will just have video of me performing. So follow along and I'll see you in a second for the next one. All right, circuit number 2, again, 3 more exercises. The only equipment we're going to need for this is going to be a light kettlebell as well as a resistance band that's set up at about chest height. The 3 movement patterns we're going to perform is going to start with an isometric split squat hold while we're doing a kettlebell halo for shoulder health and shoulder mobility. When we're finished with that, we're going to move on to performing kettlebell sliders, which is us in a push-up position, moving the kettlebell left to right at our waist height, trying to resist the urge of rotation. And we're going to finish all of these off with a split stance anti-rotation with a band at chest height, and we're trying to resist the urge of rotation. So let's get started. First up, like I mentioned before, we're going to do that split squat with the halo. So how I want us to start off is the bottom of a lunge position, 90-degree knee angle bend, 90-degree knee angle bend to the back leg. We're going to hold the kettlebell to our chest, something preferably very light because this is going to be extremely challenging. We're going to set a timer for 30 seconds. We're going to hold the kettlebell at our chest, and then we're going to make a big circle around our head, trying to think of, yet again, a halo, hence the name, around our head, getting the kettlebell nice and far away from us, working on shoulder health. But at the same time, we're making sure that our knee is tracking over our toes. It's not collapsing in. We're staying very close to the ground with our back knee. And we're trying to stay calm and take deep breaths here. Most of my weight is distributed forward onto this front leg. I'm not too vertical with my torso angle. That's 30. Switch sides. I'll show you from the side perspective. Let's restart this timer. It's a great way to work on, again, strengthening the tissue around your knee, helping make that joint a little bit safer, stabler. That's the right word. A little more stable, a little stronger, more resilient. And again, I'm trying to not have bad posture here. Shoulder blades are back. Taking this kettlebell around my head. We're not standing up too high. If we get real tired or this is too challenging, that's always an option. But I want us to work as hard as we can for the 30 seconds that we're here. And that's 30. Oof. Quads are burning from all these holds. Okay, number 2. We're going to do those sliders. So I want us to get into a push-up position. Okay? And the goal here is going to be, the kettlebell is going to be at about our hip height. Okay? We're going to be doing 10 repetitions here. So from a push-up position, I'm going to reach one arm across my body and move the kettlebell to the other side. I place my hand down. I switch. I'm resisting the urge of my hips moving around a lot on me. Taking deep breaths. You're going to have to shift your weight over a little bit onto one arm, but try to stay as neutral as you can and distribute that weight through your lower body. Make sure you're not going into extension. We have that good posterior tilt, just like earlier we had with those dead bugs. That's going to make sure we only work our core and our lower back is not getting involved. This is a tough one. Breathing hard, I'm sweating. A little more than halfway. You guys are really struggling here. You can always put your knees down and continue going from side to side here, okay? I got 2 left. And again, if this is also too challenging and you want to just keep it in the push-up position, you can just tap your shoulders and work on anti-rotation that way. Last one. Beautiful. Okay, 3rd, final exercise. Now, I'm going to set a new timer. I want us to get into that split stance anti-rotation. So, had to remember what we were doing. One foot is going to be forward. The foot that is forward is the side that's further away from the band, okay? Now, I get into that same split squat position, except now my back leg is locked out, but my front leg still has a bend to it. I get the band in my chest. This band should be attached to something sturdy, or maybe in your doorway, you put up a carabiner on the wall, something. I recommend a doorway hook. You shut your door on it, you attach the band to that. We now press our arms out in front of us, and we resist the urge of rotating for 30 seconds. So 3, 2. Now, some thoughts here. My arms are locked out, right? I want to make sure I'm not bending my arms. The band is as far away from my center of gravity as possible. Second, I want to make sure I'm not elevating my shoulder blades. I think of depressing them, keeping them in a good spot. The band is at chest height. And again, I got that front leg bent, and I'm making sure my knee does not collapse in. I'm thinking of externally rotating my foot into the ground, corkscrewing it, activating my left glute.
I find it more comfortable with hands interlocked as well. Okay, that's 30. I'm gonna grab a band from over here, show you from a little bit different angle. Okay, right leg forward. 3, 2, 1, arms pressed out. Again, back leg is locked out. Holding that band right out in front of my chest. Anti-rotation is one of my favorite core exercises. We practice the ability to rotate a lot in the gym and in sport, but we don't usually practice the ability to resist rotation under load. This works your obliques, all of your core. I get my hips involved here. 3, 2, and again, if you need to make this harder, walk away further from the wall with the band or get a thicker band. So there you go, guys. Another great circuit. We're gonna perform this a couple more times. You're not gonna have me audibly giving you cues. You're just gonna have the video. So I want you guys to pay attention to yourself, watch yourself in the mirror if you have one, or just focus on the video and the aspects of it to learn the form better. Thanks. I'll see you at the next circuit.
Third, final circuit. We've made it here, guys. You're almost finished. This one's a tough one. 3 exercises again. The only piece of equipment we're going to need for this is going to be a set of rings as well as a wall, okay? The first movement pattern we're going to perform is a single-legged deadlift against the wall, but we're working on our ability to go through some thoracic rotation, and we're going to hold that position for 30 seconds against the wall. When we're finished with that, we're going to move on over to our TRX. We're going to do a TRX ring row hold. So we're going to hold the final position of a ring row, try to isolate our back, and just hold that retracted shoulder blade position. We're going to hold that for 45 seconds. When we're finished with that, we're going to come over to our mat and we're going to do a side plank with our top leg abducted, and I'm going to show you a few variations of that to make it as challenging as you can for your current ability. Let's get started. So we're going to come on over here to the wall. I'm going to end up zooming in on me so you guys can see that here. The first thing I want to think of is starting about a foot away from the wall. Okay, let me get my timer started. I'm going to hinge over against the wall and have my back foot press against it. Don't do it on glass. From there, my bottom arm against the wall, and I rotate all the way up with my top arm, and I hold this position. I know this is going to be challenging, okay? So in 3, 2, 1, good. Bottom arm down, my back's against the wall, my back foot is pressing against the wall, I'm trying to get in as much thoracic rotation as I can. This glute is firing. I think of pushing my knee slightly out, and I have a slight bend to this knee as well. I'm trying to keep a neutral spine. My back is nice and straight. Again, I feel this in my glute. I feel this in my upper back because I'm trying to stretch out here. And make sure if you're too tight and you can't hinge over that much, stand upright more. I do not want you to round your back. And that's 30. Let's go ahead and let's switch sides. Same concept. I reach all the way down. I kick that back leg. Restart this timer. And away we go. Apologize if you can't see me as well here. Again, neutral spine. Corkscrewing that foot. This knee, I'm thinking of pressing it out, not letting it collapse in. Get that glute engaged. Really trying to rotate. Look up to my top arm. Deep breaths. Back foot pressing against the wall. Deep breath, staying calm. Almost there, almost there. And beauty. Okay, next. We're coming over to our rings. We're going to do our ring row hold. I'm going to get a 45-second timer going here. I start holding on to the rings. I retract my shoulder blades. I then walk my feet as far forward as I need when I find it challenging. Now, most important things, I'm not internally rotated with my shoulders. I'm pulling them back and down. My hips are nice and straight. I'm not sagging, okay? So you can work your core at the same time. My elbows tucked in by my side. They're not up wide. Again, I'm retracting those shoulder blades, trying to keep a neutral neck. Ooh, feel my back. Trying to think of doing this work with my back and not my biceps. Almost there, 7 seconds. Keep pinching those elbows in, pinch those shoulder blades. 3, 2, 1, ooh. All right, last one here, guys. We're gonna get into that side plank position I talked about before. We're gonna do 30 seconds per side. Now, there's a few variations. Most challenging variation, plank, top leg locked out. The variation I recommend for most people, kneeling side plank. So I'm gonna start with the kneeling side plank, go over that form. When I go to the other side, we'll do the more challenging. So pushing up through my bottom knee, forearm directly under my shoulder. I pinch my shoulder blades again, retract them like that exercise we did the row. Hold this position. Promise, guys, you do this workout multiple times, you'll slowly get the hang of all the movement patterns and you're gonna get stronger. And then you'll be able to progress to the harder variations. And we'll just keep providing harder stimulus and get better week in and week out. Top leg's the same angle as my torso. Okay, switch sides. 3, 2, 1. Bingo. Okay, side plank, harder variation. Come on, Apple Watch. Oops, losing balance. There we go. Again, driving through that bottom leg into the ground. It's getting my bottom glute to work. I'm working my obliques, my core, my top hip is working. Again, if you need to scale this down, you can just put the other foot in front, but I want you to work as hard as you can for 30 seconds, which are almost there. Deep breath, staying calm. Hips high, and that's it. Guys, congrats. We're gonna do this round 2 more times this circuit. Again, you're not gonna have me audibly talking, you're just gonna have the visuals. Do these great, finish this workout up, and I'm gonna see you at the finish line, all right? See you in a second. Thank you for working hard during this isometric workout today. I appreciate you for being here and using me as a resource. I look forward to seeing you next time. Recover, hydrate, eat well, and I'll see you soon.